Alright, so in this video we're going to make the bird jump and flap. Okay, so to make the bird jump and flap, we need to actually add some behavior to the bird. And to do this is with a C# script, okay? We add behaviors to game objects with C# scripts. Okay, just remember to be in the right aspect ratio. This is 9:18. Remember to go back to 9:16 if you were at 9:18. Okay, so now what we're going to do is that we're going to go to our assets folder and we're gonna right click and create a new folder. So this folder is gonna be for the scripts. So let's type in scripts like this. And we can go inside the scripts folder and we can right click and create a new C# script like this. So create C# script. And we're gonna call this C# script bird because it's going to define the behavior for our bird. Okay. So now that we have created our C# script, we can just open it in Visual Studio. So Visual Studio is going to open. And inside here, you can see that we have the default class with the monobehavior keyword, and we have the start method and the update method. All right, so in the update method, we want to check if the user presses the left click of the mouse or taps the screen of the device. So to do this, we're going to say if, and then we have to use a special keyword called input dot get mouse button down, and we have to open parentheses, and here we type in a 0. So 0 is for the left click and 1 is for the right click. We open and close brackets, and inside here we have to define what we want to do. Okay, so if input dot get mouse button 0, it means that if we press the left click, we want the bird to jump. Okay, so to make the bird jump, we can do it in many different ways, but we're gonna do it by adding some force or applying some velocity to the bird. So to do this, first of all, we have to go to the Unity editor, and if we select our bird, we can see that our bird right now, the only thing that our bird has is a transform component and a sprite renderer. We need to add another component to our bird. So we're gonna select add component, and we're going to select rigid body 2D. Alright, so now our bird has a rigid body 2D. What does this mean? This means that the bird is now affected by gravity. So you can see that here the body type says that it's dynamic. So if it's dynamic, it means that it's affected by gravity. If you set the body type to kinematic, it means that the bird won't be affected by gravity. But since we're gonna set it to dynamic, it means that the bird is gonna be affected by gravity. And you might ask yourself, okay, and what's the gravity? Well, here where it says gravity scale, this is the gravity that the bird is affected by, okay? So if you hit play, you will see that the bird will fall. This is because the bird is affected by gravity. Click play and see how the bird falls down. Alright, so now that we have some gravity, we can actually apply a force or a velocity to the bird. So to do this, we need to access this component of the bird. And to access a component of the bird, you should know how to do it by now, but let's do it together. Let's go here in the bird class, and here we're gonna declare, first of all, the type of component that we want access to. So we want access to the rigid body 2D. It's very important that you select rigid body 2D, because rigid body is for 3D, and we want to access the rigid body but 2D. We can call this RB, for example, so the name doesn't matter. So we can put whatever name we want. And once we do this, we want that at the start of the game, we want to get access to the rigid body component of the bird. So to do this, we say RB equals get component, and get component, then we open and close these signs, these symbols, and we say rigid body 2D, and we open and close parentheses. So now we have access to the rigid body of the bird. Now what we have to do is that here, if we actually touch the screen of the device, we want to add some velocity to the bird. So we say rb.velocity equals new vector2. So the way we specify a velocity is with a vector2, with an x and a y component. So for the x component, we actually want it to remain the same. So we say rb.velocity.x for the x component, and in the y component we want a speed. So we can type in speed, but we haven't declared speed. So let's do that from here. So let's say public float speed Okay, so we created a variable called speed and we made it public. Public means that we can, if we make something public here, it means that we can edit it from the inspector. So we want to set the speed from the inspector. Okay, so now we have set the velocity. So now if we save the script and we go back to Unity editor, we can press play and we can see that nothing happens, right? And one thing that is very easy to forget is to attach the script to the bird. If the bird object doesn't have the script, then the behavior, this bird behavior won't work. So select the bird, select add component, and then just look for the bird script. And here you can see that we can actually specify a speed because we made it public. So let's set a speed of 2, hit Ctrl S, save the game, play it, and now you can see that we can actually, if we click, we can make the bird jump. Just that you can see that the gravity maybe is a little bit too hard, so we're gonna make the gravity a little bit less. So select the bird, and where it says gravity scale in the rigid body 2D, set it to 0.8 for example, hit save, play the game. Okay, so that's a better jump right there. One thing that we can do to improve the jump is go back to the script, and here where we actually jump with the bird, we're going to, before we add a velocity to the bird, we're going to say rb.velocity equals vector2.0. so vector2.0 is the same thing as saying new vector2 0 0, x 0 for the x and 0 for the y. So we're doing this because if the bird is falling, when the bird is falling, we want to set the velocity. When we tap the screen, we want to set the velocity to 0 first, and then we want to actually give it a speed. That way we'll make the impulse a little bit smoother. Okay, so now that we have that, we can go to the Unity editor, and we can see that if we play the game, the bird falls through the ground, and we don't want that. We want the bird to actually be able to collide with the ground. And how do we do this? Okay, so we do this with collider components. So to do this, let's select the ground and let's add in a collider component. So in the case of the ground, we could add a box collider component. So type in box collider and select box collider 2D. Okay, so if you select the box collider 2D and we zoom in here in the scene, you can see that there's like a green outline. Maybe you cannot see it very good, but you can barely see it, but there's like a green outline that outlines the ground. Okay, so this outline is what we call the collider, and here you can see that the collider has a size, it has many different fields. And to make this work, we actually need to give the bird a collider too, because if the bird doesn't have a collider and we press play, the bird will go right through the ground again. Okay, so let's select the bird and give the bird a collider. In the case of the bird, we're not going to give it a box collider, we're going to give it a capsule collider because it fits the bird better. So select capsule collider 2D, and you can see that if we zoom in, you can see that the bird has now like a green circle around it. That's the collider. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go to the inspector, and in the capsule collider 2D, we're gonna click let me see. Okay, so the direction where you can see that there's a field called direction, and it's set to vertical. So we're gonna click here and we're gonna set the direction to horizontal. So now you can see that it's more like a capsule. Okay, and now you can see that it fits the bird pretty nice. But one thing we can do to edit this collider is to, here in the inspector, in the capsule collider, there's like a box that says edit collider. So hit it, and now when you hit that box, you can see that 4 points have appeared on the collider. So you can click on one of these points and drag, and you can make the collider smaller. So I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller just because it looks nicer. So I'm gonna just make it like this. You can make it a little bit smaller from the base tool, like this. Okay, so that's gonna be my collider for the bird. So now if I hit play, you can see that the bird actually collides with the ground and everything, and if you click, it goes, but there's a problem. The problem is that the bird flies all the way up into infinite, and we don't want that to happen. So to fix that, we're going to create a new collider and we're gonna do it in a different way. Okay, so here in the hierarchy, we're gonna right click and we're gonna create an empty object, and we're gonna call this object ceiling because it's gonna be like the ceiling of the game. So this this object is going to have a collider that will stop the bird from moving all the way up. So this is gonna be like we're gonna set the limit of the bird over here. So we don't want the bird to go off the camera. Okay, so let's reset the transform position of the ceiling. And now we're gonna add a component to the ceiling, and the component is gonna be a box collider 2D. Okay, so you know the drill. We're gonna edit the collider. We can edit it manually from here, or we can also edit it from the box collider component. We can, here where it says size, in the field that it says size, we can actually hover the mouse and we can make the X smaller or larger, so we can edit the collider from here. Let's make it this width is okay, and for the height let's make it like this, and then press W and move it upwards like this all the way. So just make sure that the collider is just right next to the edge of the screen or the camera, okay, the camera view, like this. All right, so now if we hit play, we can see that if we try to move all the way up, we cannot move up because there is like a collider, there is a ceiling. And you can see that the bird rotates, and we don't want this to happen. The bird rotates because we haven't set a constraint for the bird. So to set this a constraint for the bird, select the bird. Okay, so in the rigid body 2D where it says constraints, click in the constraints field and set the freeze rotation to Z. All right, and that way we'll stop the bird from rotating. All right, so now we hit play and we go all the way up. You can see that the bird won't rotate on the Z axis, okay? Because we have set a constraint. All right, so now one thing that we need to do is to make the bird flap. And how do we make the bird flap? Okay, so to make the bird flap, what we need to do is that we need to create an animation for the bird. So select bird, and then to create an animation, first of all, we need to activate the animation window. So we're going to go to window, animation, and then we're going to select animation. When we do this, the animation window will appear. So now just drag the animation window to here, to the project and console area. And if we select the bird, you can see that we have the option to create an animation. So hit create. And now Unity is gonna give us the option to create an animation. So go to the assets folder, and in the assets folder, you can see that we have different folders. So let's create a new folder called animations, like this. Now click inside the animations folder and create another folder called bird. And now click inside the bird folder, and now we'll give and inside this folder we'll save our animation. So give a name to the animation. The name for the animation could be, for example, flap, like this. Then click save, and once you click save, you will be the animation window will change to this, and you will be able to actually make the animation. So to make the animation, we only need 3 sprites. It's a simple animation. So for the sprites, the sprites are here in the project view. So we're gonna drag the project view up here in the hierarchy area, and we're gonna select sprites, and we're gonna see if we can look for the sprite that we want. Okay, so we want for the bird sprite, we want this sprite. So if I select this sprite and you don't know which sprite I have selected, just know that you can see it here in inspector on the right. Okay, so we're going to select that sprite. We're gonna drag it to this to the top area over here, and you can see that there's like a plus sign that appears. So drag it here to the 0, 0. If you don't see the sprite, you can click this arrow over here next to the bird sprite, and now you can see the sprite. Okay, so at 0, 0 we want the bird to be this sprite. Then at 0, 5, for example, let's drag in this sprite over here. You can see it on the inspector, which sprite I'm selecting. Drag it to where it says 0, 5. All right, and now we want the last sprite that we want is this sprite over here. So drag it to where it says 0, 10. So now we hit play, we can see a preview of the animation of the bird. So you can see that the bird is gonna animate like that. And that animation I think is fine, but we can make the animation a little bit smoother by actually copying and pasting the previous two frames. So come and copy this sprite over here. So to select it, you have to click on it so it becomes blue. So hit Ctrl C, and now click here where it says 0.15. So there's a white line that you can see here. So make sure that the white line is here at 0.15, and then you can click Ctrl V, and then come and copy command copy the first sprite. So select the first sprite, command copy, and then move the white line or select where it says 020 and click Control and type Control V to paste that sprite. Okay, so now we hit play. You can see that the movement is a little bit smoother, but the problem is that it's maybe it's a little bit too slow. So to make everything faster, select the first sprite and click hold shift and select the last sprite. So select the first one, hold shift, select the last one, and you can see that every single sprite has been selected, and you can see like 2 vertical blue lines in here. So if you hover over the vertical line and you click, and you can drag to the left or to the right. If you drag to the right, you will make the movement slower. If you drag to the left, you will make the movement quicker. So we want to move the movement quicker, so drag to the left, hit play, and now you can see that the birds move maybe a little bit too quick. Let's move a little bit like this to the right. Okay, a little bit more, maybe. All right, maybe that's a good velocity for now. Okay, so now that we are done with this, don't forget to select the project view and drag it down to the bottom area of the editor. All right, so now we hit play. You will see that the bird actually is animating, so it's flying, it's flapping, and if we click, we can go up, up, up. If you want to see the game view a little bit better, you can drag the game view like this. So you can see that we can go up, 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 we can fly, the bird can fly, everything looks perfect for now. Okay, so that's gonna be it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.